Well, this is 1 mana left, and we're at about the 3-week mark. It's time for Manaforged Arrow video update on some changes I made since the last update video. I'll probably start off showing my farming strategy. I've shown this a little bit, I've touched on this a little bit. Maybe I'll give like a more thorough explanation for my idols and what I'm doing. Scarab farming isn't really reinventing the meta for farming, but I'll kind of go over at least how I've tweaked it and perfected it now that I've been doing it for a while. I'll go over the Mageblood swap. I'll go over some mirror items I made on a relatively cheap budget, but, and then, yeah. Let's start off with the farm strategy. So, I'm doing Scarab farm, like I said, not new. I'm stacking map mod effect. I'm up to, I think, 276 map mod effect. That's pretty dang high, so a lot of modifiers get pretty juiced and crazy. But let me go over maybe some things I'm focusing on that other people haven't been. So obviously I'm stacking that mod effect. That's not new. I have scarabs found in your maps, less common variety. And then my medium, or my 3x1s have explicit mod effect. And then the big one that counts is rares, increased chance to drop scarab per mod affecting them. I have all four have these two mods. But then the smalls have the scarab drop. Alright, all of this is pretty basic so far. Nothing new so far. Where I add a little bit of spice into things is I have a little bit of a shrine emphasis. The reason I have a bit of a shrine emphasis is that it's actually just a big speed multiplier. Like, even if you have a god tier build, there's not many things that will make you go faster in a map than just walking into the map, clicking a shrine that gives you just like a turbo jet engine boost, and then just having that shrine snowball for the remainder of the map, and within 30 seconds you have like 6 shrine effects on you that last 2 minutes each. It's basically Headhunter without wearing a Headhunter. How do I achieve that? You'll see it hopefully during this demonstration map, but basically I have shrines grant an additional random shrine effect, which is the mod that's on the normal passive tree. So every shrine gives 2 effects. And then all my smalls have shrine duration. So 40% shrine duration, a chance for additional shrine, whatever. Shrine duration, shrine duration. Basically, instead of shrines lasting 45 seconds, for me they last almost 2 minutes. And every shrine gives 2. I have a few things that have a chance for additional. And then I just pick domination, because the only other thing you can do with this, in my opinion, that's decent is Fortune Favors the Brave. Fortune Favors the Brave is really good, but the most OP mod with Fortune Favors the Brave is the pack size mod. The rest are pretty mid. The pack size mod is really good if you're doing Titanic, because you can get like 40% pack size, which with Titanic is really powerful, but that's really only good for the Rogue Exile strategy, which I'm going to be trying to pivot into here. And I intend to be farming the Rogue Exile stuff going forward, but for the Scarab farm, pack size doesn't really matter, because you're just finding rares, and you're not getting the Titanic effect that you can get on Exiles. So it kind of is not that impactful for my strategy. So instead of going for pack size with Titanic, I'm kind of going for this emphasis with like all the shrine shenanigans, which is it's just fun too. You can sit there and pull out your abacus and do like some money per hour calculations, but let me just tell you, just zooming around with 6 to 10 shrines is fun, so I do that. And then last, I've shown this in a previous video, but I use the Wellspring of Creation. This makes it so that monsters deal 30% less damage. It's a big tankiness boost. And then it makes it so that monsters in the map have 40% more life, which if you're playing Manaforged Arrows, there is no second modifier here. So it's just a free 30% damage reduction. That's pretty OP. Let's go here. I got Nemesis, Scarab is like mandatory. You want modded effects, whatever. Divinity, Adversaries. Let's just show a map. I'm probably making like 5 div per map. Taking 5 or 6 minutes a piece. That's pretty good. We'll see if I can get a good demonstration here. So every rare should drop a pretty fat stack of Scarabs. I have a fairly strict filter on right now. So I know I've got crap in the past for having like bad filter. Also, I have Petrify on this map apparently. Petrify is pretty powerful. Try and not get petrified. Oh, I actually do have Petrify on the map. It's not the Basilisk. There's the Basilisks that make it so you get petrified randomly, and there's nothing you can do about it. Okay, I actually ran a map of Petrify. I'm gonna chill on the minus 59 PDR. If I was being really greedy, I'd take that. But I'm gonna try to not take it and try to not die for, you know, a little bit of credibility here. I've been pretty tanky. I think in the last, like, 3 days of farming, I've died, like, 2 or 3 times. And that's at 100 where I'm trying not to die, or I'm not trying to not die. I did, like, 60 to 100% of 99 to 100 with this strategy, deathless. I think total I had not many deaths, 99 to 100. But, I mean, I'm doing, like, 400, you know, quant with, like, 276 map effect. So it should be pretty lethal content. You get some of these mods where it's just like, you know, 55 minus max, 45 pen, and it's like pretty crazy. The crit mod's one of the nastiest because it kind of double dips. The T17 crit mod with all this stuff up is 1900% increased crit chance for like 340 multi or whatever, which is like basically... It's, since monsters in the game have a 5% base crit, that basically makes it so that they have 100% crit, and 3.4 times damage multi. So it's pretty much just times 3.4 times damage. So I've tried to get a little bit of a crit reduction. Not immunity, I have like some ghetto immunity. I've tweaked my flasks around since the Mageblood swap to have Solaris, which is, you know, 4% or 4 second recently. If I've taken a crit, I can't take extra damage from crits. When I'm clearing the map normally, this is pretty well crit immunity. Or if I get shotgunned by like Katarina's big volley attack, that's pretty much crit immunity. The only thing it's not full crit immunity for is if I take a really, really big hit from like the Katarina skull in this map example. And it's... Like I said, I got a little bit of juice here. I haven't had a big scarab yet. The big scarabs are worth like 2 div. I haven't had one yet. But a lot of these scarabs I'm picking up are like 5 to 20 chaos. So I'm probably already getting close to that like 3 to 5 div threshold right now. But I haven't had any like 2 div scarabs yet. But it's pretty much crit immunity. But it's not, like, absolute crit immunity. Random Soul Eater here. Every now and then you get, like, a kind of tanky modify or mult guy. It's usually, like, an all-alone Soul Eater. Where I get just, like, randomly petrified and lose all my ramp against or something. I'm gonna be honest, this has been a little actual underwhelming on, this one guy is gonna stay at 1% HP. Alright, fuck you. And he drops 0 loot. Sweet! Alright, we gotta have that one guy just make the video look lame. This has been a pretty underwhelming map, actually. I did put in a pretty juiced up map. Just to try to have some, you know, big tinks for the video. I'll admit that. And then I've had, like, 0 big tinks for the video. The only thing I've had is a raw div. This is actually below average loot for a map. This is kind of shit, actually. I was thinking I'd have like 20 big tinks for this, because I put in a pretty juiced one. I guess this is karma. I could have put in like a lame map and had like 6 or 8 div. If you actually watch me, like... I think 5 div average is not unreasonable when you factor in fragments. Because Katarina drops Reality Fragment, which is worth like 1.5 div. And then, what do you call it? The Eater of Worlds Fragment, Devouring Fragment, which is worth, like, 0.7 div. Those are her 2 most common fragments. And I would say her average fragment loot, with those two being the heavy-weighted ones, is probably 2 div. Because usually I'm over 400 quant. It depends. I've had streaks of like 30 plus maps where I was like over 400 the whole time. 400 is the cutoff for guaranteed 2 fragment. And then after that, you have a chance at 3 fragment. But for the most part, you average 2 fragments because of that. And with reality and devouring being like 40 and 40% drop, you basically average like with 2 fragment average, like pretty much guaranteed. Let's call it 1.5 to 2 fragment average. But I don't know. I probably average about, let's call it 4 to 5 div per map with this. Cosmic reality for this one, so that's whatever, like 1.7 div there. But alright, since the last video I've swapped Mageblood. I'll go over that a little bit. I'll just misclick back into the map. Not much tweaked other than I no longer need res everywhere. So before I was using res on Helical Ring, and I had a couple res tattoos that I've now tweaked to some things like I have guard duration for Arcane Cloak, and then like 1 lightning res. Oh, I don't actually have Chaos Res on the other one. I have Mageblood now. Mageblood feels a lot tankier. It's allowed me to switch my ring around. Since I recrafted my ring, I'll go over ring crafts in a second. Since I recrafted my ring, I've now gained the Endurance Charge min with Endurance Charge on kill, and now I have Calendar's Touch with the double recoup. So 44 life recoup makes me like pretty dang immortal to just like sustain damage. It completely cancels out Progenesis and then some. It's pretty much full cancel life damage taken because of the 50-50 mind over matter split and then 100% of physical damage going to mana. All that damage taken between energy shield, mana, and life, all of that contributes to the recoup. So this pretty much makes my life damage not take damage. It actually is a little more than positive on life recoup. I had a Stubborn Student small cluster, or excuse me, I had a Enduring Composure small cluster before to gain endurance charges, but now that I have 2 minimum all the time, and then the now 12% on kill, I've had 2 times Stubborn Student now to get a little bit of mana, which is kind of nice because with, you know, Stubborn Student and having 24k mana currently, I have like 10k mana. Openness or Stubborn Student are probably the best 2. This is kind of a little bit nice because it lets me like not care about Fizz Reflect. The game says 70 PDR. That's not how PDR works technically, because it means on big hits it's not 70, but on all the small trash hits and like I said Fizz Reflect, it just completely like it's pretty crazy mitigation. And then with 4 endurance charges it would be, you know, 78 whatever, but like on medium-sized hits, I'm pretty well Fizz immune, which kind of helps with the Ascendancy, giving 100% Fizz taken from mana. Having that only really take damage to really, really big hits is kind of a big deal, because on the actual dangerous hits, it doesn't do much. But on all just the ticky-tacky, small trash monster hits, those not draining my mana anymore can like kind of be a nice quality of life thing. But I'll go over Ringcraft. I've crafted helicals in a lot of video. The way I crafted this one and one other was I basically just Sorrow Essenced until I hit 2 other modifiers that are good. This could be Res, Chaos Res, Life Recoup, all attributes. If you get... You're guaranteed the Essence modifier, obviously. Essence are really cheap now because of all the idle juice. They're like 50 Sorrow Essence for 1 Divine or something crazy. So that makes the actual crafting cost pretty cheap. Like if I look up Sorrow here, it's 65 to 1. That's basically free. And that's for instant buy. It's 75 the other way. So if you just spam Sorrow Essence on Helical, if you can get 2 other good modifiers besides the Sorrow Essence, I come in with Annulment Orbs. Those are also pretty much free right now. I try to get it isolated so that it's those 3 modifiers alone. I Metacraft cannot change suffix. If one of the modifiers is Chaos Res, you're in a pretty good spot to Veiled Orb. If it's not Chaos Res, you can just craft Reforged Chaos. If it is Chaos Res, though, and you hit a Veiled Orb, you have a couple options here. A lot of people are looking at my array and being like, oh, I have to hit the Endurance Charge mod. That's not really true. It's a good mod to hit, but basically any Veiled Orb outcome is good. Because what's going to happen is if you have 3 isolated suffixes and you lock prefix, or you lock suffix and then Veiled Orb, it's a 50-50 pretty much. It's not quite a 50-50 because of the weighting, but it's pretty much 50-50 on if it's going to turn into a veiled prefix or a veiled suffix. If you hit a veiled prefix, you can hit mana, or like the mana recoup, mana life regen, whatever, and then just craft Min Endurance on the suffix. If you're going to Calandra's Touch your ring, these are pretty cheap now. They're like 5 div or something. Just having 2 minimum endurance charges is kind of enough. If you don't have the min endurance charge, or the max endurance charge boots especially, you really don't need the on-kill mod. Because then you're just talking 2 or 3. Just having 2 minimum is enough. You don't need that on-kill mod for a third. So if you hit mana with the Veiled Orb, which is pretty decent odds, then just crafting 1 min endurance is enough. Or you could just have Enduring Composure still on a small cluster and have crafted all attributes, which is like pretty close to T1. It's 13 instead of 16 is T1. So the crafted mod is really close to the T1 mod. So you could just craft all attributes instead and just go with Enduring Composure. If you hit a suffix, a lot of suffixes are good. You can go Hybrid Res with Chaos Res, which is it's really good if you don't have Mageblood, but if you have Mageblood, you can go Hybrid Attribute, which is not really that good if you're trying to hit Dex. You can go Min Frenzy on Kill. That's decent, because I have the Frenzy on Bow, but that's also like an okay one. Or, obviously, if you hit the Veiled Chaos on and then Chaos on Kill, which is what I hit on my first one, kind of by accident, and then I ended up going with that, then I can drop the Enduring Composure on the Small Cluster Jewel, and that's when I swap to Stubborn Students. Those are kind of the branch of options, depending on what the Veiled Orb hits. Or, if you're going really big, you can go for the Lake of Calandra Helical. If you go for Lake of Calandra, here's my recommendation, okay? The Life Recoup mod is actually kind of OP. But if I had this doubled and then Lake of Calandra, I'd have like 100% recoup. That's kind of overkill. The same applies to the Chaos Res rule. If I laked this into 100 Chaos Res and then mirrored it with Calandra's Touch into 200 Chaos Res, I'd have 140 Chaos Res. You kind of don't need that. So I would actually, if you're going to go for like better rings than mine, which is, I'll probably get to this point in a little bit here, I would actually maybe consider not Calandra's Touching and having one ring that's like mana, Dex, and then one with Chaos Res and try to hit a 3-2 positive on that. You can still craft like the Min Endurance just in case you hit like positive on like a 4-1 or a 5-0. And then have the other ring, you can go Life Recoup. Oh, we got this guy here. I'll get him in a second. Speaking of this guy, I'll get to that in a second. Because instead of having normal weighting Chaos Res and Life Recoup mirrored with Calandra's Touch, it's going to be expensive, but this will be way better than my ring because the stats are double, basically. You do the 3-2 Calandra's Touch. It's going to take several attempts. But, is this the guy or is this the back? Oh, that's him. I'll get to him in a second here. But instead of having half and half split, you can double it with Calandra's Touch and do a 3-2. You know, 2 negative mods, 3 positive mods. And that third mod can be, one of them can be Chaos Res, which would be like 100 in this case. And then the other one can be the Life Recoup. So instead of having 50 Chaos Res, 20 Life Recoup, Calandra's Touch, you can have 100 Chaos Res on one ring, 40 Life Recoup on the other ring, and then both rings have like 200 Dex, 150 mana or whatever. So you end up getting way more Dex and mana than I have. You're going to spend like 2 mirrors on that to hit that, but this is for people who are like more geared than me or like maybe watching this in the future or whatever. That's the way I would probably do it. Or if you're going really, really, really big and you want to spend like 5 mirrors, I guess, you could just Tina Core's Lock, but those are pretty expensive right now. But Reflecting Mists are getting more expensive, so it makes that argument a little more valid. I don't know. Anyways, last thing in the video is I have crafted in the last 3 days 2 mirror items. I'll go over those in a second here. Well, I'll go over those right now and get this guy his copy in a second. The first up is the chest, which this guy is going to be copy number 3 for the chest. The other is an ammy. I'll do the chest first because this guy's waiting. So I crafted this today. I'll go over how I crafted it, and then I'll go over the amulet. But it's probably more... You could try to hit your own version of this, so I guess for that sake I'll go over it. But basically how it works is I did not do the fracture for the attack speed mod. Because if you look at the price right now of Hinacore's Locks, the only way to guarantee get this mod fractured is to use Hinacore's Locks to fracture it. 1 in 4 would put you at, 360 div right there. Just to get it fractured. You still have to spend like 60 div, recombinate it onto a necrotic, 50-50, hit that, then spend 360 div to Hinacore's Lock fracture it, then you still have to craft the chest. It's going to end up costing more than mirror, so it ends up making more sense to just mirror it. I looked at that and decided I would try to do a maybe kind of different way to approach this. So the mod has the attack mod. It's attack and speed. So because it has the attack tag, the way I crafted this is I ended up having a search string for grasp mails that look like this. There are one offline, one online here. These people are starting... Well, this one's fractured, but you can't transfer fractured, so... wow, the other one must have also sold. I have one in the bog tab here. I'll show that here. Nope, that's not it. This one. Okay, this is a good base to show off the example. So you can buy them like this, where it's got like the grasping mail base mods, but the way I have my search filter for this is I ended up buying this for like 70. It has the attack speed mod, just a random suffix, some random other grasping mail mods, but it's got an open suffix, and the other suffix does not have the attack tag. The cannot take extra damage from bleeding while moving does have the attack tag, so you can't get that. But when you have the open suffix, you win, because you can craft cannot roll attack modifiers and annul it clean. Get it to a point where it's basically only the attack speed per dex modifier. From there, you have to try to... Well, you then scour it with suffixes cannot be changed into a magic item. Imprint it. From the imprint, I tried to augment it into an armor mod that can't transfer onto the necrotic base. From there, I hit the augment, re-imprinted it magic with now an armor mod and the attack speed per dex mod. Re-imprint it, regal it to try to hit another armor mod that can't transfer. Then hit the PDR mod, because it's a tribrid base. It can hit the fizz damage, or flat fizz reduction suffix. Then, finally, I Conquer Exalted Orbed to make it a 5 mod. Now, the 5 mod chest on this has 4 modifiers that cannot possibly transfer onto a necrotic base. And the 5th modifier is the Grasping Mail attack speed mod, which is the only modifier that can transfer. Then I crafted a Grasping Mail, or a necrotic armor, that had what would otherwise be like an acceptable finished, like all T1, dense fossil for... in this case, I had triple T1 defense modifiers and dex. From here, I recombinated. It's a lot of RNG from here. The goal was to do a recombinate that didn't end up needing a fractured mod to just recombinate it into a finished product. There's some RNG involved in that. I didn't hit it on the recombinate, unfortunately. I ended up hitting a 4-mod chest, which is still good. The 4-mod chest, unfortunately, had the hybrid mob, which is the worst one, flat. The dex and attack speed's guaranteed then. And the dex and attack speed... So now I had 4 modifiers that were all what I wanted, but I couldn't get the 5th modifier. I YOLO fractured and hit dex, because if I would have YOLO fractured the attack speed per dex, I would have just had, like, you know, the finished product anyways. Because then from there, the craft is easy. From there, though, I did not have triple prefix, and the 2 prefixes I had are kind of terrible without the percent modifier, because that's doing most of the legwork to get the defense modifiers. Now, it didn't work out there. The fracture didn't work out, but I had dex and the attack speed mod, and then an open suffix on the necrotic armor. From here, I just spent, like, a lot of currency, like 100 div, or maybe it was only like 50. I got really lucky on this step, so I probably only spent like 50 div, just using, like, Eldritch currency to basically influence it. Use a bunch of Eldritch currency, try to hit the prefixes. I ended up getting pretty lucky, so instead I got the mod I wanted, which is not triple defense mod, but instead I had T1 flat, T1%, and I got lucky on the slam for what I actually wanted, which was Zafri. So, which is actually better. I would much, much, much rather have Zafri for this build than hybrid, because I went from 23.4k mana or whatever to like 24.1k mana when I made this swap. And then from here, you craft percent attributes, whatever. I went, because I got really lucky on hitting the Zafri, I basically got to the point where I'm like, well, that's a mirror chest. So instead, I went ahead and spent some borrowed currency. And it costs like 200 or 300 div to hit the 12% mod. I was just going to take it with 8% and use it as is with the 8% mod, because that's basically free. It's like 1 in 4. The 12% mod is like 1 in 100. But because I hit the Zafri mod, which is even better than triple defense mod, I decided, let's just go ahead and make it like, an actual mirror chest. So I took some borrowed money for the time being. I'll pay it back, but to hit the 12%. And then from there, it's now a actual truly mirror chest. I have, 6 white sockets. I divined it good. I sacred orbed it to be, perfect. And this is my mirror chest. GG. So that's how I crafted it, and now it's a premiere. You can craft it the same way to hit like a settle chest. That's like, if you do it that way, you might hit a worse chest than this. That'll have like an 8% enchant. But you might be able to get that for under a mirror. It's up to you. The last mirror item I have is the amulet. I'm getting a little long-winded here, so I'll probably have to wrap up the video here soon. But the way this was crafted, this is a weird-looking amulet. It's a simplex. It's double-influenced. The way most simplexes look for a stacker build is the 3rd modifier is actually the damage per attribute mod, which is usually like a no-brainer to include on a stacker amulet for a simplex. But for this build, you don't need it. The reason for that is your mind is destroyed, and Indigon basically give you like infinity percent damage. So the typical influence modifier for percent damage per dex, which would normally you would think be really good, is not actually the best mod. Man is better. However, instead of just getting T1 mana, why not use the temple modifier, which is hybrid of essentially T1 flat and also percent, which gets with the simplex multiplier into 20%. So it ends up just being better than if you just hit mana. The way you do this, I'll go over it. I'll kind of speedrun it. It's just kind of cursed. That's why it's a mirror amulet. It ended up, for me, I got kind of lucky because I hit it the first attempt. When I bought the base was whatever. When I bought the base, the crafting cost for this was around 380 div on average. Since I did the craft, simplexes have gone up to like 180 div, which makes the total cost of the craft about an average of a 550 now, which is like exactly a mirror. However, you have to 50-50 simplex, which sucks. Because the whole thing comes down to the fact that you're trying to get a temple mod onto a double influence to amulet, which means you have to 50-50 it, because temple mod can't otherwise go on to a simplex. So if you're gonna 50-50 a simplex, which costs 180 div for the base, you might as well try to set it up so that when you do the recombinate for the 50-50, you get a finished product, which is how it was done. The way you do that is, well, the two influence mods have to be there already. They're both suffixes. You do the whole Awakener Orb into simplex. Use the Awakener Orb for simplex for one mod, donor base for the other. Awakener Orbit, it guarantee hits a prefix, so you end up kicking to imprint before. Imprint it before. Hit the Awakener Orb. Have dex, attributes, random prefix. Normally people do this with like all the crazy tech to get the dex stack prefix. But instead, I 1 and 3 annul with the imprints until I get it to be a clean prefix, percent dex, percent attributes, clean prefix, so no prefix at all whatsoever, the two finished suffixes. Then I ended up crafting the recombinate one. The way that was... Do I have like a sample? No, I don't. Okay, so the way I did that is I had a bunch of amulets that had the temple mod called Zopex. And what I ended up doing was like annulling them clean. I bought a ton of these, and it took a lot of attempts. Annul it clean. Here it gets really cursed, because you have to get it to the point where it's at... it's Redeemer Shaper for these two mods. The way you make it so that it's a guaranteed recombinate is you get it to the point where you use a Crusader Exalted Orb on a Zopex amulet that has been annulled clean. You hit a random mod. Now you have a Zopex and a random influence mod that is a Redeemer or Shaper. Then I start buying a bunch of other amulets on the market that are the same as what I slam on this. So in this case, I think I did like Hunter. I Hunter slammed this. Bought a bunch of amulets that had like dual Hunter mod. And then I just kept recombinating it with amulets that are only Hunter mods. With multi-mod recombinate over and over on this. No other mods. Clean. Annul it clean. And then over and over until I get an amulet that has Zopex, influence prefix, 3 influence suffixes, no other mods, and then recombinate 50-50 with a simplex until, yeah, you 50-50 it. The reason this sucks is because you have to 50-50 your 180 divine base with what ends up being like a 30 to 50 divine donor to not hopefully lose all your money. Well, it's perfect divines, and yeah, I have it. So it's a cursed craft, but I ended up hitting it. So yeah, these are my 2 mirror crafts. I'm getting like extremely tired talking now, so I'm gonna wrap the video up. But yeah, the amulet is 15 divine fee. The chest, I have a 30 divine fee. Yeah, that'll do. If you're wondering, yeah. I'm having the end of the video here. I'm getting to the point where I'm like starting to slur my speech and I can barely talk. That's because I happen to be a type 1 diabetic, and my blood sugar just decided to get really low mid-video, and I was to the point where I was already like 25 minutes into the video and did not want to redo the whole video, so I just decided, you know what? I'm just going to finish the last 10 minutes of the video stuttering and slurring my speech as a low blood sugar individual. But, one take, finished. See you guys next time. I need sugar now. I'm gonna be right back. Fuck!